great to be back with you again tonight at Stock Talk at Studio 59. Happy to have Ethan, Fourth Turning Point, back again with us. Discuss,
Yeah.
yeah, to discuss economies and all kinds of cool stuff about what the near future looks like, really. We could try to scratch the further term future a little bit as well, I bet, huh?
Yeah.
Um, So I know we didn't do a great job of doing our due diligence with respect to the type of marketing we did for this. So that's what our main talk about today. So I wanted to give everybody an idea of what it is we're trying to achieve here. Um, we're trying to concentrate the live stream on whether the excess of today itself can become the catalyst and how long it can stay that way. So I'm going to let Ethan explain what he means by that sentence. What makes up the excess, Ethan?
I think obviously, well, today we had the S&P 500s at 69.50, around 69.50-ish, and we have a trailing PE around 31 and a half. And wait, um,
That sounds high.
yeah.
Oh, think I lost you. Hopefully he can dial back in. So while he's trying to get back in again, I will give you guys an idea of what he and I have been communicating about relative so that we can get right back into this when he's able to join, I think. So he was Ethan from the Fourth Turning Point was asking a lot of questions about his impression that there's a mix today in the economy of the worst elements of the 1970s, 1929, which is pretty ominous, 1999 and 2007 happening all at once today under um, under tighter policy constraints, etc. I mean, it looks like I'm going to have to re-invite him because I see you joined, Ethan, but it doesn't look like you joined as a co-host here. So I've never had to do this before. Let's see if I can do it this way. Yeah, I can. All right. He's going to be coming back online here in a second. So that's one of the things I wanted to get understood. And he says it's because we have tighter policy constraints, thinner institutional trust, which there are definitely measurements of that issue going on around here. So within the economy, within America at least. So um, he also says that banking leverage and the emerging Fed credibility stress, extreme market concentration, limited policy room, historical sequencing are all lining up. And there's obviously some truth to that as well. Um, and the metals, metals being mostly around. You're all right. It looks like you hit the wrong button.
I had to show my screen. It was my bad. Let's not try that.
Yeah.
The trailing PE, we're looking at.
Oh, you tried to look something up. Gotcha. Yeah, don't bother.
We're
So
look,
you have a really weak Wi-Fi, according to what's coming up on my.
what's going on?
So be careful. I can hear you, but that's one of the keys to live streaming with Substack. You got to have a super good Wi-Fi connection. Right? So what I did, that's good. What I did for everybody, Ethan, is I went through while you were gone. I don't know how much you could hear, but while you were gone, I explained to them the mix of the worst elements of the 70s, 90s, 1929, 2007, the banking leverage, and we were just about to start talking about metals. So before we do that, let's go back to what you missed, and let's do these one by one, okay? So the core view is that this is just another late cycle market. You're referring to the bull run of the last few years.
Yes. Yeah, after COVID, I think the economy just went into an overrun with obviously the mix of QE, obviously the political ramifications of an election, whether, whether who won or lost, it obviously affects the economy.
Sure.
Um, and those types of just the liquidity excess or excess, like we were talking about, the liquidity excesses is hitting a point where, historically speaking, there is no other option but down from here.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So what do you think's causing the liquidity excess?
I think it's a mix of, obviously the QE is caused by obviously the Fed, but now it seems as if the Fed doesn't really have much of its own independence anymore, which also becomes political, even though it's economics and finance. But that's 2026, I guess. But yeah, the liquidity within the market has taken off. Obviously, with M2 money supply, that's the one everybody sees every day. It's like they're up 160% since before COVID. More dollars have been created since COVID than before COVID. Well, second one everyone sees on CNBC, and people don't realize how that affects the market until years later. And now, obviously, here we are.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. There's also a flood of cash because a lot of people, more than ever, are getting over the sting of 2008 and what happened
Okay.
financial crisis. So a lot of people bailed on their 401ks, et cetera, their IRAs, because they didn't trust the market anymore. So part of my take on the economy as an amateur economist is that a lot more people are seeing that there is a light within that tunnel of making money, whether it's for their retirement or otherwise. And I don't want to be FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, of
So
course. Even you
that's
see like the poly market,
what's
they
interesting.
bet on it.
You would think, yeah, the bond market, we'll talk about that separately. But what you would think is that because there's so much weirdness going on, especially in this country with respect to policy, you'd think that every little headline would destroy the market.
And every headline it gets stronger.
Well, because I think we've gotten used to Trump, not only from the first term, but also from Tariff Day. Everything after Tariff Day was, well, let's see if he changes his mind, right? Which they call taco.
That's another one.
But he's right or wrong in that saying that he created the environment that makes you have to have Teflon shield about your investments. And I write about that a lot in my stack in terms of calm down, it's going to be okay, that kind of stuff. Which doesn't mean that we don't have a. You mentioned I think 10 to 20% turn down. Yeah,
Yeah, this
you
probably
said the
more
10
close to the second half of the year.
and I don't deny that. I'm gonna jump to that actually. My question for you is equity drawdown, 10 to 25%. So my question for that is you said second half of 2026 is one of your predictions, and
Yes.
we'll get to the other predictions in a bit, everybody. But thanks for coming on. I see Distant Dreams Poetry. Just thank you, Distant Dreams. Um, so you said second half 2026. My question is, okay, that's quite possible. We're due for a good drawdown. We're due for some kind of a rebalancing. But my question is, how long will it take to rebound? Is it going to be the end of 2027, 2028? Are we going to come out of it as soon as we go into it? Kind of like what happened with the tariff announcements. We dive for a reason. We never start climbing back up again. What's your opinion on that?
As I get older, I start seeing like these past announcements, and I'm like, oh wow. I remember trading through these announcements. Before it was like, oh, I just see it in history books. Now I'm like, wow, I remember. But back to your question, it's like, I think honestly, after I think you see in the second half of 2026, you're gonna see that's when obviously the Amazons, the Facebooks, the biggest tech companies are going to obviously those are the companies that are going to revise down their earnings the quickest, and their margins are obviously going to get hit. And I think that's when you probably see the little drop. Or I don't want to say little because that is people's 401ks, but you see a good 10, 12, 15% drop. Then I think that's when you see again, like we've always said, I think that's when you see Donald Trump or the Fed come out and try to save the market. And that's not even political. I think under Obama, they did it. Under Biden, they did it. Under Trump
No, no,
one, they did
no
it.
one's ever had I would disagree with you a little bit there. No one has ever had the back of the market stronger than in my lifetime than Trump, trying to do this 10% reduction of credit card rates, trying to put $200 billion towards bond buy down, bond confinement payments to help the markets. There's a lot of things he's trying to do, and I'm not pro or anti-Trump in any way, shape, or form. I'm kind of agnostic with that, but it's
Yeah,
not
I
a lot.
feel like he's getting to a religion point where it's like, yeah, economists, we just got to remain agnostic. Just stay out of that.
So the 1776 bonus he's trying to do for the
Yeah,
vet.
that was. I mean, you can't you can't. I'm not to a point in the liberal spectrum where I can say that that was a bad decision to be
Uh,
made. Is
I also want
would
to
be
thank
my
Reno for joined. So I just want to make sure we understand that the banking leverage, the Fed credibility stress, and a lot of the stress is being caused by the administration with the whole thing about Jerome Powell. Do we indict him? Do we not indict him? Do we get rid of him early? Who are we going to choose? Rath, Wren, whoever. There's all these.
I'm
Um,
like, God, I gotta start looking into that too. Sorry.
I have to believe that whoever gets chosen is not going to be a puppet. I have to believe that. I think it's too big of a job for anybody to just do whatever he wants to have done because it really should be an independent. And I think the other Fed presidents around the country are going to sway whoever comes in as the Fed chair to say, "Hey, we got to do this as a group. We have to have live debate among ourselves and make a decision about what we're doing with rates." I do agree with you that it's setting up to not look like we're going to have much of a rate change for 2026 now.
Right?
We were talking three. Now we're talking two. I believe they'll be talking one very, very soon, if not none, just based on today, not based on what might happen in August of this year. But right now, it looks like the things that typically spark a rate reduction are starting to go away. So I don't know if we need one. The economy's hot still. If some of these things come true that you talked about, such as the unemployment going to 5%, and if inflation starts to become, I could see them pulling some levers, but typically they
Yeah, they're gonna do that's when they pull repo, all the other
quantitative
garbage.
easing. Yeah, they could. I mean, they're already saying they're going to do that a little bit. It could become more significant. So, well, we'll see. We'll have to see how that plays out. I don't think anything's going to happen until the end of May when we have a new person in place. Do you?
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, no one's because if you drop out the market, you risk being stuck there on the other side right now. If he picks a guy who's going to lower rates 100 basis points in the first meeting,
I don't think he
but
can.
then if
Have the power. One individual doesn't have the power for that. They can try to sway the other regional Fed presidents, but they can't just unilaterally say, "I'm doing this."
yes, like anything you bet on, nothing really can change. So I could see the market being right here on May, June, and we're just like, okay, it's like halftime. It's halftime 0-0 in a soccer game. Just keep going because I don't see because you have to wait until we know who. Again, like you said, we don't know if he can't come in and cut 100 rates, but can it again like you kept saying, it's like the Teflon that we've created with Donald.
Have to have
So you just got to keep
you
going.
you have to be flexible in this market, and not jump to conclusions every time a new headline comes out because they're going to come out every week, if not twice a week. So you have to take that approach that your money is sound for now and should be until there are other markers that are a lot more have to become a lot more prevalent in order for anyone to start thinking differently about how they should manage their investments. Um, so
Yeah.
one of the things we started about right when you were jumping back on again was the metals.
Yes.
Sure, I don't lose that thought. Let's talk a little bit about the metals that you. What do you think?
Well, obviously, I think the metals are obviously everyone knows like the silver. Everyone sees the silver in the headlines. It's hitting 90 today, and then it dropped 8%, and then it went up 6%. And people keep talking about the numbers, but then again, when you talk about liquidity and the excess, to me, the biggest move is actually the fact that it can drop 8%. Like silver, a, a metal from thousands of years ago, lost 9% of its value 2 days ago because five banks were over leveraged. You know, it's just we've hit a point where there's so much liquidity that even metals are moving like penny stocks.
And that's the market we're in. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't look at it every day because
Yeah,
it'll drive you crazy if you
it's
look
turning into crypto. Like you can't look at crypto every time.
similar. I mean, if you have faith, if you've done your homework, right? And by the way, Free Will just joined. Thanks, Free Will. You if you have done your due diligence, you've looked at the fundamentals of whatever it is you're investing in, and you believe that you're not just jumping on to jump on a train, kind of like, then you're doing it for a reason. Stay with that reason until proven otherwise. It's kind of like a stock. It's a little different with metals, I realize, but with a stock, you check out all the eight fundamentals, you feel good about it, and you say, as long as these fundamentals don't change, I'm going to stay strong. And maybe you buy, 10% of what you want, and then you wait a period of time, dollar cost averaging, and then you buy another 20% when it feels right because the fundamentals have all stayed the most part. And that can be quarter to quarter, or you see, well, how do they do in their next quarterly earnings, right? That's why I spend so much time every 3 months on 80 to 90 quarterly earnings calls because I want to hear from the people at the top the confidence that they have in their company, not only for the next 3 months, but for the whole outlook for the annual outlook for the year. And I made some changes just recently because I don't lie. I'm not going to name the name of the stock, but it's like a two-headed uh, company in terms of there's two people competing, two real big players, right? And they are in the cybersecurity world. I'll say that. And the one of the individuals is very much aware of their competition and they're staying ahead of that competition as best they can. The other CEO is saying, I don't watch my competition because I'm just looking and focusing inward. That's not a great idea. You got to look at both. You got to know what's in your shop down to the warehouse floor and or coding, and you have to look at your competitor. So I know I got on my high horse there a little bit. I apologize, Ethan, but
Love it.
uh,
That's what we're here for.
yeah, but the reality that um, in silver and gold and copper are hard to make those decisions. Now let's use copper for just a second. Did you know that in a typical NVIDIA rack, there are 5 miles of copper? Just one rack, right? It's like they're like 72. I think they're about 50 inches wide by 9 feet tall. That's how much,
Look,
not data center, just one rack. And we're talking a rack runs, about 20, each chip runs 27,000. So I think each rack runs nowadays with Vera Rubin coming out, probably upwards of, I can't even do the math, probably getting into the figures for each one, maybe higher. So at any rate, my point is that copper is an essential piece of AI and the data center build out, right? So copper might be a good play. I'm not an advisor. Don't take my word. I just look at the story. And the story suggests to me that for the next 3 or 4 years at least, copper makes sense. But I'm fully leveraged with doing what I'm doing, so I don't need to necessarily jump over to copper at $5.
that's a option.
So that's how I look at I look at the story and then I look at the fundamental and say, well, how much copper is being taken out of the ground? How much in America? How much rest of the world? Right? Is there anybody who's going to put a stop or overflood the market with? No, because you can't keep up with it fast enough. It's the same problem with energy. We are going to hit a huge roadblock here somewhere in the second half of this year or 2026 with respect to the ability to have enough energy to run our new data centers. So that's why I'm constantly saying, you need to figure out what you're going to do with immediate small modular nuclear reactors, for example. We don't want to go fast so that all of a sudden these things are blowing up or something stupid. Hey, Jack, thanks, Jack, and Elizabeth, thanks for joining, Elizabeth. But you have to move swiftly with quality control on the power problem, right? And I spend a lot of time with power.
Yeah, I like your stuff.
So
I read it. Even though I'm power school on electricity.
I
Yeah.
just I'm reading and I'm intaking stuff like a fire hose right now because there's
Yeah.
coming out about the the fourth industrial revolution of AI. That if you don't spend your time in my chair reading constantly and watching constantly video, you're going to fall behind
Yeah,
because
it's like you
change.
miss like a week of news and you're behind a year.
Well, it feels that way, especially if you go on vacation.
Yeah, I'm like I'm
Don't
scared to
go
go on
on
vacation lately.
vacation. Uh, so one of the things you mentioned was 5.0 plus unemployment rate possible before the end of 2026. And this is across all different planes? Are we talking small?
Yeah, so I think that's all because I think right now we said we're at 4 point. I think this week, right? It was Tuesday. We said we're at 4 point. And they announced we're at 4.4, right? I believe.
Mid fours.
I believe it's like we're in mid four. So yeah, I could see probably five because when you get to a bad labor market, you start seeing it increase about point 0.2 to point 0.3 a month. But I don't see us hitting that rate by this year or next year. So I could see creeps up of point 0.1 here, point 0.1 like every other month, which ends up getting us to which is scary how quick you get there, really. But yeah, you're right at five by the end of this year, really. And that's without any actual breaking of the labor market, obviously.
Yeah. Part of that, I was trying to understand your reasoning. If it was immigration was causing some of that, if
That also that does not help.
it caused some of that, um, it very, very easily could be both. Um, so you said something about the labor market deterioration becomes undeniable by mid 2026, uh, with private payrolls turning decisively negative outside. Can you explain that to our listenership?
That's honestly is the moment I've been waiting for because I guess that's what we haven't hit yet. And bears like me are obviously waiting for that. Once you see the first, or that's when you jump into the statistics. And you're like, once you see the first negative payroll, the odds of a recession occurring within the next 3 to 4 quarters jumps up X amount. And I think it's around like 80 or 90%. And then once you hit the second month, it's almost like 100% historically. So I think that's where I see is mid 2026 or mid this year actually is is that moment when I think you have that realization in the real market and the real world. So I do think that that moment is probably close to it being negative, the job market. Will it be negative? And this is the part that I will bring up is will it be negative the day it comes out or will it be revised negative? That's the question for another day.
Well, it, you know, 2025 for, that was kind of crazy. We need a just accurate measurement.
Yeah, so it's like, will it be in the moment we know, or will it be 3 months later? I don't know, but I know that when that moment comes, that is usually historically the realization moment that the economy is definitely hitting a wall.
Okay. But you're still calling for about a 7,200 to 7,800 range. I'm assuming this is the yeah, S&P somewhere between March of this year before the pullback.
Yes, because I do think obviously the reality of what we've spoken on, the mass amounts of liquidity, the mass amounts of and obviously it's not slowing down with like so you see Japan just announced, and even with their bond markets heading towards 40-year highs at 3%, their 30 years, they just announced that they're increasing their deficit and increasing spending. And I I don't know. I don't know how that ends well. But um
Are we differentiating ourselves from some of the rest of the world, with respect to how our economies used to be so linked with the UK and Japan, certainly China? We used to have quite a bit of if one went bad, because of the peak, there would be a little bit of a domino effect. Kind of seems like that's not what's in the cards the way that we are managing our relations overseas.
Yeah, it seems. And then actually, Trump said today he's going to show us the new world order in Davos. But then it's like, and then I think the Saudi Arabian leader was like, how is the old world order telling us what the new world order is? And honestly, I hate to say it, but I agree with that statement. Um, even as an American, because how what but really, I think yeah, I think it is showing that leadership does matter. I think because you do see, and obviously the EU, they've been we we were equal after 2007 and 2008, and now we're miles ahead of the EU, even though they have the exact same population and all the other stuff. So I think yeah, we differentiated ourselves, but now I think it's going to be that. I think now's that correction period where we differentiated ourselves, but at what cost?
So here's where I might agree with you across all of your points. If the um, Supreme Court rules that we have to roll back all tariffs, even though today Trump made it out to be made worse than it probably will be at $200 billion in payback,
Sorry, should
and
I should
the mess, the accounting mess that will come forth, trying to figure out which businesses get owed what. Um, and that was supposed to happen yesterday, by the way. That was supposed to be that
Yeah, they keep delaying that.
January, and they put it off for now. But they are making. It's funny. The Supreme Court does a good job of what I call a hot air balloon. They they balloon. Let's throw up a weather balloon. Yeah, see how the
Yeah,
citizens
that's exactly do it.
take and vote. So they've let off a few weather balloons that suggest that they agree with the lawsuit that started all this by businesses such as Costco that say that this is illegal, it's not an emergency, you can't use the 1977 Act to do this. So that could create your 10 to 15% pullback in less than a week. What combined
Yeah.
figure out what it's going to do, how long it's going to take to rectify it, right? So that could be a catalyst. But other than that, in a world war, I just don't see the markets being damaged because we've become resilient beyond anything that the 70s, 80s, 90s, or 2010s ever did for us relative to our focus and our ability to just keep steaming forward with our stocks and our bonds and our uh, metals and all of our investment, except real estate. Real estate's still a mess.
No matter what industry people are in, we all like real estate is just a mess.
Yeah, I have argument with a buddy who's 40-year real estate agent about he thought that it was never going to get bad, and it's like that. It's a cycle, man. It's all a cycle. Everything's a bankster cycle. Real estate's a cycle. There's so many sectors that are cyclical that you gotta expect. Now there is a chance. This is a small chance. There is a chance that AI will break certain cycles. I'll give you an example. Semiconductors are a cycle, right? They
Yeah.
go up, they go up, they go down. So there's a chance, at least for the next few years, that semiconductors, due to the overwhelming need and demand, could potentially break the cycle of up and down, at least with some of them. Maybe not the entire stack of different types of semiconductors, but at least with CPU, GPU, and storage. So those three probably are good for now because I don't see it changing with respect to these build outs of these AI data centers and the factories that are really intelligence factories that we're creating.
I think that actually leads back to what you said earlier, where it's like in the next few months to years, and we're already starting to see it like locally and stuff. But and and especially more in the like near term, you're going to see like small businesses, medium businesses, and especially like I don't want to say the lower income groups, they are going to come out against AI because, electricity, like, also this leans back into the other, but like the electricity prices, them taking over places and converting it into a data center instead of affordable housing. So I think you are going to see that impact people because, again, like always, you're going to see billionaires take over land and what they're just going to build another center. And yeah, that might impact someone's stock price, but it's also someone's home. And I guess that's where, that's why I'm like, wow. But
That's where our viewpoints start to differ. We
yeah.
we thought we had we thought we had much bigger differentiation in our viewpoints until we started talking tonight before we got live. By the way, thank you, Cecilia Dart Thornton, for joining. Much appreciated. Um, and you guys can write us a message too. If you want to send up a message via live stream and ask us a question about the economy or anything that has to do with what we're talking about, feel free to do it. Um, so my take on that is I think we got some um, some resilience relative to what you're saying because Australia, love it. Um, because of AI, actually, I think that give you an example. Microsoft just came out yesterday and said we will not allow any of our data centers to become front of the meter where it forces prices up for the local citizens or businesses. Well, you watch. Meta's going to do it. Uh,
Yeah.
AWS is going to do it. Google's going to do. Everybody's going to take that approach because they can't afford not to. There's
Yeah, it's
backlash
PR. Yeah.
with these community advocate groups that are saying that are putting a stop essentially with my other podcast from last week. They're already putting a stop to $98 billion worth of centers were stopped because of this. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So all of them are going to fall in line with Microsoft and say, we are not going to allow this to happen. We're not going to allow it. Already has happened, I realize, but we're talking about the end of build out. In other words, if there's a spot in Indiana where, say, Microsoft has an opening coming up for a new data center. They're talking about that one new data center because they have to go back and fix the other ones later that have already opened, which is a small bucket load that have already opened.
Yeah,
Com-
to get in the scheme of things.
Angelus, thank you for joining. Um, so that's where I'm going with this is I think that the most brilliant minds in the world are directing our AI, at least for America, if not the world, and they will put a stop to most of the bad news or bad outcomes that can occur. I hope I'm right. I think I'm right. I'm an optimist. And you're taking a pessimistic view about the bear market.
Yeah, but honestly, on AI, I do agree on you in the fact that yeah, and this is on everything, and like subsidies and anything. Once one company does it, it's just time until the rest do it. Like,
Yeah, it prompted Trump to come out with something.
yeah, he tweeted.
You,
Honestly, I was shocked. I was
you
shocked. I was like,
get what action ends up being taken by that tweet, but yeah,
sure again.
you can't have they're trying to build something obviously for revenues. There's no joke about the need for this huge AI to pay back these big companies or small companies for that matter. So they're making a mistake if they build these things and hurt the public. Their product cannot work. People will boycott.
Yeah,
What for
100%.
Meta and social media, they'll boycott it. So you gotta be a good citizen, a good corporate citizen, which most of them try to be. They don't always, they don't always succeed, but they try to put fixes in place. Hey, Taylor, thanks for joining. So I'm sure that we can do these things right. I like the people. I like Chris Wright, our Department of Energy guy. He's got it. He's doing the right things relative to energy, and trying to get past this problem of bottlenecking it and past the problem of citizens seeing their electric bills go up because of it. We're not there yet because we delayed. Not that we knew what the crystal ball was going to say, of course, but there was a long time there we ignored the grid. The
Yeah,
electric
it was
grid
for way too long.
is in our brain. Oh, yeah, because we just didn't keep investing in, keeping them working properly and for the future. So
Yeah, I think that's not an American problem, but a 2020s issue. I think is once it worked, we
and
stopped investing.
pandemic stopped a lot of things.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with any of that, but we could still see the rationale still suggests.
Oh,
Uh,
it's gone. We're back.
I had a friend whose relative was one of these guys that inspected bridges throughout the East Coast, not the entire East Coast, but a portion of it. And this was like 2017, and he was raising the alarm that our bridges are falling down. That
Terrible. Yeah.
this engineer's relative of mine is telling me and showing me that we better start doing something, and we really didn't start doing anything until at least many years later. So, Origin, thanks for joining. So yeah, we got problems. Like I said on my last podcast, the next 3 to 7 years are going to suck for the
I
average
think so. That's where
person
I agree with you too.
on this planet. It's not America. It's probably going to be on this planet. If you're not already hurting, you will be for a period of time. I look at it as a game like an episode of Survival on TV. It's going to be very similar. We're going to kind of have to all just kind of buck up and realize that there's going to be bumps in the road, and some are going to be bigger than others. But when we break out on the other side, oh my gosh, it's going to be so cool.
Yeah,
It's easy. We're going to have services that are way better, way more individualized services, and and it won't cost as much. People find corporations who learn how to leverage AI will flourish. Perfect. Love that. Can't really read. Oh, Taylor. Thank you, Taylor. That is true.
I
So
agree.
the big corporations have to do that. And I think they want to. Everything I hear from all the different information I see, and I watch a ton of video, I think that that's what they want to do. Um, now it's starting to get a lot of press, but very few people were reporting what Elon said on the Moonshots podcast recently when he said, If you're planning for retirement in the next 10 to 20 years, don't bother because you're going to have all the things you need, money." Because
That's
and when they asked him what be more specific, he said they won't be able to spend the money fast as a government. That's how much money is going to come in. The average person will become an entrepreneur. The average entrepreneur is going to have between 5 and 10 businesses, all being run by agents with agents below them, AI agents.
this
And
is the stuff that I like.
that's why this year somebody's going to be a one employee company is going to crack $1 billion this year. I don't know if it might be 2027, but that's one of the predictions that's out there that a person with one employee himself is going to crack $1 billion in annual gross revenues just using AI.
That's impressive, honestly.
If it doesn't happen today, it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen eventually. And we're all going to start doing. I mean, think about Substack. It's essentially an entrepreneurship, whether you're right podcasting, it's essentially an entrepreneurship. Well, if we can have research done for things like a podcast, that would sure. I mean, I had a handyman over here today, a good friend, but a handyman over here today doing work in my house, and he said, "You working? I thought you retired." I said, "Yeah, about 10 cents an hour." What between what I do on Substack and what I do on my about 10 cents an hour. So
It's a little bit.
that's all because my family pays for my Substack page, remember, and my friends. So anyway, so we've been going at it for 40 minutes. Help me build websites, organize my data, write code. That is true. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't I think it says I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Think. Yeah, I agree with can't read who
I
did
need
it.
to start.
Love,
I
love
need
that.
to start using it for more of this stuff. Like, I don't. I use it for like day to day stuff. Like, I need to start using it. You know,
Thank you, Taylor Irby. Love your comments.
cool. I learned so much from this app and just watching or listening to you guys. Oh my god.
We it's not some of the years aren't gonna be pretty, but some of the years we've gone through haven't been pretty, pandemic. I don't
Yeah.
there's gonna be things that happen, and we're trying to get through all those obstacles and all those road bumps faster with more quality than being scatterbrained and chaos. We're trying, but there's gonna be some. I don't think that the government is really doing a good job with the process of being able to predict what do we need to do as a government to get out of the way of AI outside of the bad actors. What do we need to do to make sure that the opportunity for a more abundant society is reached?
Yeah. And I think this is gonna be my most socialist thing I've ever said. But I think we have to say most prosperous for all of us. Like I think people and even the small businesses will forget about the corporations. Like even they need to survive too. Like everybody is just trying to organize themselves in a way that will make them to that past these 4 to 7 years, like you said,
And
because we all know it's gonna be shit. So,
well, I
which
wrote an article not too long ago. If people want to go to stocktalk.info, they can probably pull it up and read it for a minute about my life and pivot points because I have pivoted more times than the average guy relative to my careers. And that's what we're going to have to do. As individuals, we're going to have to pivot and not count on our careers being nurtured by $100 million company or a $20 million company, or even a $3 million company. There is a good chance that we're going to have to take the bull by the horns as individuals and find paths towards revenue for ourselves.
yes, I
Not a,
agree with
not a life of crime, everybody.
trading, kids, trading.
More so around entrepreneurship. Really, I
Well,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
not you can't just trade. You're gonna get killed
this is
eventually.
true. This is true. This is
You
true.
trade that. So you gotta be it's like being diversified in the markets, right? It's the same thing. You have to be diversified with your income streams. And it's something I'm learning at a very old age, I'm turning 67 in May. So I've
No,
learned
no.
I have to pivot again, like for the seventh time in my life, relative to being able to have a new career and to be able to maybe monetize it. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Um, so, we're almost at 45 minutes. I want to give you an opportunity to give a wrap up of, what your thoughts are, how you felt about tonight, and plug for your own, the fourth turning point.
Oh, well, honestly, I just wanted to say, obviously, thank you for having me on and having me for the conversation. Obviously, it's amazing every time. But honestly, my thoughts about the economy are pretty, simple. Simple. I do see obviously a drop. I do see weakness, but like you, I do agree. I think this is again, no matter what people say, left, right, center, this is the greatest country in the world with the greatest economic opportunity in the world, and I do see us coming out of this stronger than ever because we always do. Whether it was the '70s, the 1860s in the Civil War when we were 20 times more divided than we are today. So I think
Well said.
any any time that we've hit that wall, we've always climbed over it, under it, through it. So I don't deny that greatness of America.
Yeah, well, let me take that. I love that, by the way. Thank you, Ethan. But let's take it one step further in my wrap up. So the push, not most of the brilliant people in this country are pushing other lands, other countries, other sovereignties to have their own AI for this exact reason. You cannot depend on the United States' AI. You have to have your own, and you have to meld it to your own culture, your own currency, your own way of doing business. And if you do that, if you can do that, then you out on the other side of this with a level of abundance that will be better than what life is today or tomorrow. So the sovereign part is a very important part to the health of this planet overall. And here's what I predict will happen. Um, and I just came up this on top of my head really is those sovereign nations that can't do it because they don't have the funds, the level of abundance from places like the UK, Germany, Poland, America, Canada, they're going to help them do it so that they're not having to, pay basically for every little thing that that little sovereign nation's going to need in the future. We can do it for other countries if we have to, but first we have to get to a point where the level of money coming into this country and around this country is so strong. I mean, the GDP, it could rocket.
Yeah.
We could be talking double, triple, quadruple GDPs in the future, somewhere around 12%, 15% maybe. I don't know if I'm being unrealistic. But once you get there, that's when the state, local, and national governments can't spend money fast enough and all services become virtually free.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one too. Because I think I think the issue that a lot of Americans is going to see is getting there.
Yeah, and we're going to have some real anti AI stuff. So we're going to have to get. It hasn't really started yet, but I see it on the horizon. I know it's coming. I know there's going to be somebody who rises out of the ashes for a politician that uses the AI negativity as their platform to get voted in. Could be a congressman, could be a senator. I don't know, but it's
Could be anyone.
going to happen in the near future when we start hitting that 3 to 7 year bumpy road, and people are going to eat it up like free cake.
Thank you for having me, Phil.
I loved having you. You guys take care out there. Thanks for joining, and look for the clips coming out and Stock Talk and Stock Talk info. If you want to go to the website or just Stock Talk by Phil Pinelli. You guys take care. Love having you out there. Appreciate it.
Thank
Bye
thank you
bye.
for having me.